What happens when the people who once made us believe in distant galaxies, space stations, and alien philosophies quietly slip beyond our reach? What if the voices that once brought science fiction to life are now just echoes in the fandom they helped shape? Star Trek. Deep Space. Nine wasn't just another installment in a beloved franchise. It was an emotional, philosophical, and character-driven universe unlike any other. And behind the alien prosthetics, dramatic arcs, and Federation uniforms were real people, artists, visionaries, and souls who left an indelible mark on television history. Today, we look back not just at the characters, but at the 22 unforgettable actors from DS9 who have passed on, each with a story, a legacy, and a moment that still lives in the hearts of fans. Louise Fletcher was no stranger to embodying characters who blurred the line between righteousness and ruthlessness, and her portrayal of Winn Adami in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, remains one of the most chilling and unforgettable studies of spiritual hypocrisy in science fiction. Introduced as a high-ranking Bajoran cleric in the early seasons, Winn's presence gradually grew in both narrative weight and thematic relevance, culminating in a political and spiritual influence that reached far beyond Bajor. On the surface, she was composed, devout, and respectful of sacred traditions. But as the series progressed, her motivations revealed a deeper, more troubling hunger, not just for leadership, but for dominion over belief itself. Winn Adami was not a typical villain. She did not lurk in shadows or wield weapons. Instead, she weaponized faith. Her every decision, every alliance, even those with dark, destructive forces, was cloaked in the language of divine purpose. She believed the prophets had chosen her, and that belief justified every betrayal, every ambition, every moral compromise. Her feud with Major Kira Nerys became one of the series' most compelling interpersonal dynamics, a reflection of the tension between true spiritual conviction and self-serving religious authority. When Winn ultimately aligned herself with the Pa-wraiths, malevolent entities opposed to the prophets, it wasn't out of malevolence for its own sake, but out of desperation to maintain her perceived divine significance. Her final moments, marked by betrayal and failure, weren't merely a defeat. They were a tragic unraveling of a woman who had come to equate power with faith. Fletcher took on the role at 59 years old, imbuing Winn with a quiet menace and dignified rage. Every pursed lip, every calm yet cutting line carried the weight of a woman who demanded reverence and feared irrelevance. Off-screen, Louise Fletcher had already carved out a formidable career. Her portrayal of Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest earned her an Academy Award and international acclaim, cementing her as one of cinema's most formidable figures in psychological drama. Unlike the bombast of many villains, Fletcher mastered the power of restraint. Her characters often said little, but the subtext was deafening. Louise Fletcher passed away on September 23, 2022, at the age of 88, due to natural causes. Her death marked the end of a luminous, decades-spanning career. In Deep Space Nine, she gave us a character who forced viewers to confront the darker side of belief, not through spectacle, but through conviction. Winn remains a haunting reminder that the greatest threats often come not from those who reject faith, but from those who twist it for their own ends. Fletcher's legacy, like her performances, endures in quiet power. Then came Ren Auberjonois, whose performance as Constable Odo elevated Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, beyond the conventions of traditional sci-fi storytelling. Odo was more than the shape-shifting chief of security aboard the station. He was a character defined by existential longing, moral rigidity, and quiet pain. As a member of the Founders, a species of gelatinous beings known as changelings, Odo had been discovered as an infant and raised by a Bajoran scientist. Lacking a sense of cultural or familial identity, he was molded, both literally and figuratively, by outsiders, which left him perpetually estranged from any single world or philosophy. Ren Auberjonois captured this alienation with remarkable subtlety. Odo was disciplined to the point of obsession, stern and emotionally guarded, but beneath that stern exterior was a soul aching for connection. His sense of justice wasn't abstract. It was deeply personal. He enforced order not because he believed in bureaucracy, but because rules gave structure to a universe that had always denied him certainty. As the station's security chief, Odo held himself apart from the crew, always observing, rarely indulging. Yet over time, his icy demeanor melted, most notably through his evolving and painfully restrained love for Major Kira Nerys. Their relationship was one of the most compelling arcs in the series, slow-burning, emotionally raw, and riddled with fear and longing. Odo's internal struggle came to a dramatic crescendo during the Dominion War, when he was forced to confront the truth about his people's militaristic empire. Torn between his origin and his conscience, he ultimately chose compassion over conquest. In the series finale, Odo's decision to return to the Great Link and share with his people what he had learned about individuality and love served as both an ending and a new beginning. It was a moment of full-circle reconciliation. The changeling who had once longed to belong had become the agent of his species' evolution. Auberjonois' portrayal was nothing short of masterful. He brought to Odo a poetic blend of stiffness and depth, making every moment of emotional vulnerability hit harder because of its rarity. A veteran actor with a staggering range, Auberjonois began his career on stage and became a Tony Award winner before moving into television and film. He played Father Mulcahy in the original MASH-A film, voiced Chef Louise in Disney's The Little Mermaid, and appeared in shows like Boston Legal and Benson, where he consistently transformed supporting roles into scene-stealing performances. Off-screen, he was known for his intellect, humility, and profound dedication to the craft of acting. His deep engagement with fans at conventions and interviews reflected a man who understood the meaning of connection, something his most famous character had spent a lifetime chasing. On December 8, 2019, Ren Auberjonois passed away at the age of 79 from metastatic lung illness. His loss was deeply felt across the Star Trek community and beyond. Few voices in science fiction are as iconic and immediately evocative as that of Majel Barrett, the First Lady of Star Trek. While she never physically appeared on screen in Deep Space Nine, her influence was undeniably present in every episode through the unmistakable, serene voice of the Federation computer. Her calm, measured tone wasn't just a background feature. It was the auditory embodiment of Starfleet's ideals: order in the face of chaos, logic amid uncertainty, and a reminder that no matter how strange or hostile the galaxy became, something familiar was always guiding the crew. That voice became a constant in the Star Trek universe, spanning not just DS9 but also The Next Generation, Voyager, and Enterprise, linking generations of fans through sound alone. But Majel Barrett was far more than a disembodied voice. Her roots in the franchise ran deep, beginning with Star Trek, the original series, where she portrayed Nurse Christine Chapel, a kind, intelligent medical officer whose unrequited love for Mr. Spock added emotional depth to early episodes. Her most flamboyant role, however, came later as Lwaxana Troi, the eccentric, larger-than-life Betazoid ambassador and mother of Counselor Deanna Troi on The Next Generation. With a mixture of outrageous humor, raw vulnerability, and a fearsome maternal streak, Lwaxana often walked the line between comic relief and poignant commentary. Barrett infused her with a depth that made her more than just a recurring character. She became a symbol of emotional authenticity in a universe governed by logic and discipline. Off-screen, Majel Barrett was not merely a cast member. She was a cornerstone of the franchise's legacy. As the wife of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, she played a critical role in preserving and extending his vision after his death in 1991. She continued to serve as an ambassador for the franchise, participating in fan conventions, public appearances, and behind-the-scenes efforts to ensure that Star Trek remained true to its original message of optimism and inclusion. Her devotion was not performative. It was deeply personal. She protected and nurtured Roddenberry's universe like it was part of her own family. In an age where voices often fade into the noise of background effects and digital sound design, Barrett's vocal presence stood out. There was something timeless about the way she delivered each line, never hurried, never overly emotive, always in control. In Deep Space Nine, a series often darker and more morally complex than its predecessors, her voice was an ever-present thread connecting the past to the present, the chaos of war to the clarity of principle. Whether delivering coordinates, mission logs, or simple affirmatives, she carried authority and warmth in equal measure. Majel Barrett passed away on December 18, 2008, at the age of 76, after a private battle with illness. Her loss was more than just the departure of a beloved actor. It was the silencing of a voice that had become synonymous with Star Trek's enduring promise. For many fans, her voice was the first they heard in a new episode and the last they remembered after the screen went dark. It welcomed us to the future and reminded us that, even in the vast unknown of space, there is comfort in consistency. And then there was Aron Eisenberg, the actor whose unexpected yet deeply resonant portrayal of Nog gave Star Trek Deep Space Nine one of its most emotionally powerful and transformative character arcs. At first glance, Nog was exactly what audiences might expect from a young Ferengi, loud, mischievous, opportunistic, and frequently entangled in the antics of Jake Sisko. But what began as a supporting comic relief character gradually evolved into one of the franchise's most meaningful depictions of personal growth. Against every odd, cultural, physical, and psychological, Nog grew up before our eyes, not only maturing into a thoughtful and disciplined young man, but becoming the first Ferengi ever to enter Starfleet Academy. In a world where Ferengi were often portrayed as greedy and unscrupulous caricatures, Nog shattered the mold. He defied both his father Rom's expectations and the stereotypes of his species, driven not by profit, but by purpose. This evolution was not presented as easy or sudden. Through episodes like Heart of Stone, where Nog passionately pleads for Commander Sisko's recommendation to Starfleet, and The Siege of AR-558, where he endures the trauma of war and suffers the amputation of his leg, we saw a character who was not immune to pain, but who grew because of it. The episode, It's Only a Paper Moon, remains one of the most poignant in DS9, a raw exploration of post-traumatic stress, identity, and healing, in which Nog, with the help of Vic Fontaine, learns to face life again after being broken by it. Few characters in the Star Trek universe have undergone such a grounded, emotional, and rewarding journey. Aron Eisenberg infused Nog with unfiltered humanity, even beneath layers of prosthetics. He brought a mixture of vulnerability, humor, and ferocity that made the character's journey feel authentic and earned. What many fans didn't realize until much later was how closely Nog's resilience mirrored Eisenberg's own. Born with only one kidney and standing at just 5 feet tall due to health complications, Aron endured multiple kidney transplants and ongoing medical issues throughout his life. But rather than retreat from the spotlight, he embraced the Trek community with open arms. He became a fan favorite at conventions, always taking time to engage with viewers who had seen something of themselves in Nog's struggle and triumph. Eisenberg also found joy and purpose behind the scenes. He was an avid photographer, a motivational speaker, and a beloved figure within the fandom. He often spoke candidly about both his gratitude for the role and the responsibility it carried. He understood, perhaps more than most, what it meant to be seen. not just as a character on TV, but as a symbol of possibility. His work on DS9 wasn't just performance, it was personal. When Aron Eisenberg passed away on September 21, 2019, at just 50 years old, the loss was deeply felt, not only because of his age, but because of the warmth and sincerity he had brought to both his character and his fans. For those who grew up watching Deep Space Nine, Nog wasn't just a Ferengi who made good. He was a reminder that growth is possible, that courage can come in the most surprising forms, and that no one should ever be dismissed based on where they come from or how they look. Edward Albert's role in Star Trek Deep Space Nine may have been fleeting, but it offered a telling glimpse into the political complexity and ethical challenges that often simmered beneath the surface of Bajoran society. In the episode The Siege, Albert portrayed Zara, a provisional government official caught in the web of a civil conflict that threatened to destabilize Bajor just as it was finding its footing after the Cardassian occupation. Though Zara had limited screen time, he represented an archetype familiar in both science fiction and real-world governance, the bureaucrat who, though well-intentioned, is paralyzed by fear, indecision, or self-preservation. Zara was portrayed as cowardly and somewhat duplicitous, a man whose desire to retain power or avoid conflict overrode his duty to the greater good. And yet, Edward Albert brought a subtle undercurrent of desperation to the role, hinting that Zara's failings were not born solely of malice, but of human weakness in a time of crisis. This ability to bring depth to even the most understated characters was one of Albert's greatest strengths as an actor. The son of the legendary Eddie Albert, known for his roles in Roman Holiday and Green Acres, Edward might have lived in his father's shadow, but instead, he carved a reputation for sensitivity, range, and emotional honesty. His breakout role came in the 1972 film Butterflies Are Free, where he portrayed a blind young man determined to live independently. The performance was universally praised and earned him a Golden Globe for Most Promising Male Newcomer. It was a role that required nuance and authenticity, qualities that would come to define his entire career. Beyond the screen, Edward Albert was a dedicated environmental activist, deeply involved in conservation efforts across California. He served on numerous environmental boards, including the California Coastal Commission, and used his platform to advocate for responsible land use and the protection of natural resources. His activism wasn't performative, it was personal. He believed deeply in the stewardship of the earth, often speaking about the importance of intergenerational responsibility and harmony with nature. Tragically, Edward's life was cut short when he was diagnosed with advanced lung illness, a diagnosis he battled with dignity and resolve. He passed away on September 22, 2006, at the age of 55, just 1 year after the death of his father, whom he had cared for during his final days. The loss of Edward Albert was felt not only by fans of his work, but by environmentalists and activists who had come to know him as a passionate, articulate voice for the planet. Tony Todd's role in DS9 was, on paper, a single-episode appearance, but The Visitor remains one of the most heart-wrenching stories in the franchise. Playing the older Jake Sisko, Todd delivered a performance filled with grief, devotion, and poetic sorrow. Jake's lifelong mission to rescue his father from a time anomaly became a meditation on loss and legacy, and Todd's portrayal gave it soul-shaking weight. Though best known to horror fans as the terrifying Candyman, Todd's dramatic range was vast. He elevated every role he touched, whether for minutes or hours. In November 2024, at age 69, he passed away. And while the cause remains private, his impact is anything but hidden. That single performance continues to move even the most stoic of viewers. John Colicos was no stranger to the world of Star Trek. As Kor, the storied Klingon Dahar master, he first appeared in the original series and returned triumphantly in DS9, aged but unbroken. In the episode Once More Unto the Breach, Kor seeks a warrior's end, an opportunity to die with honor rather than fade into irrelevance. Kolikos infused the role with Shakespearean gravitas, delivering a swan song that was as touching as it was epic. Outside Trek, he was equally legendary as Count Baltar in Battlestar Galactica. When he died in 2000 from heart-related issues at age 71, science fiction lost one of its most commanding figures, but his baritone and battle cries still echo across galaxies. Joseph Ruskin's name might not ring instantly familiar, but to Trek diehards, he was a constant, a character actor who appeared in the original series, Voyager, Enterprise, and DS9, where he played Tumek, a wise Klingon elder offering counsel during times of unrest. His calm demeanor and quiet wisdom contrasted sharply with the typical Klingon bluster, reminding viewers that strength can also come in stillness. Ruskin's ability to blend seamlessly into his roles made him a cornerstone of Trek's character tapestry. He passed in 2013 at age 89, leaving behind a legacy built on quiet consistency and subtle power. Michael Ansara's contribution to the Star Trek universe was profound. He portrayed the Klingon warrior Kang across multiple series and took on a different role in DS9 as Majel, a Tavnian diplomat caught in a cultural dispute. Though brief, his performance carried weight. With a voice that seemed carved from stone and eyes that held centuries of story, Ansara was a titan of television and film. He lent his voice to Mr. Freeze in Batman, the animated series, played Cochise in Broken Arrow, and left an undeniable impression wherever he went. When he passed in 2013 at the age of 91, after struggling with age-related illness, the entertainment world mourned a true pioneer. Brock Peters gave us one of DS9's most grounding characters in Joseph Sisko, the father of Captain Benjamin Sisko and proprietor of a New Orleans restaurant. With warmth, wit, and unwavering conviction, Joseph brought a dose of earthbound reality to the show's interstellar drama. He was a father who didn't mince words and never backed down, even from a Starfleet captain. Peters, in real life, was a film icon. His role as Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird remains one of the most searing portrayals of injustice in cinematic history. He also voiced Darth Vader in the Star Wars radio dramas. In 2005, at age 78, he passed from illness, but left behind a legacy that continues to inspire strength through humility. Gregory Sierra made a chilling impression as Entek, an Obsidian Order operative manipulating Major Kira in the psychological thriller of an episode Second Skin. Cold, calculating, and terrifyingly convincing, his performance added a layer of political paranoia to DS9's already intricate world. Sierra had a long, varied career, from the sitcoms Barney Miller and Sanford and Son to more dramatic roles. When he passed in 2021 at 83, he left behind a resume as diverse as it was impressive, a true craftsman of television who never played the same man twice. William Lucking's portrayal of Forel, a scarred and fiercely loyal Bajoran resistance fighter, brought real-world grit into the world of sci-fi. Appearing in episodes like Shakar and The Darkness and the Light, Forel represented the enduring trauma and quiet heroism of those who survive oppression. Lucking's rugged appearance and intense delivery gave the character authenticity. He later gained mainstream fame as Piney Winston in Sons of Anarchy. His passing in 2021 at age 80 was met with quiet mourning, but his performances still resonate as symbols of resistance and grit. William Schallert made a gentle, almost poetic mark on DS9 as Varani, a renowned Bajoran musician symbolizing cultural recovery after conflict. It was a role that required softness, and Schallert delivered it with heartfelt grace. With a career stretching back to Hollywood's golden era, he was best known for The Patty Duke Show and guest spots on nearly every major TV series of the 60s and 70s. His passing in 2016 at the age of 93 marked the end of an era, but his presence remains a gentle memory in fans' hearts. Kenneth Tobey's appearance in Shadow Play as Rurigan, a man who creates an entire village holographically to preserve memories of a lost world, remains one of DS9's most poignant meditations on grief and memory. A staple of 1950s science fiction, Tobey starred in classics like The Thing from Another World and It Came from Beneath the Sea. His DS9 role wasn't flashy. It was soulful, and in many ways it mirrored his own cinematic legacy, preserving the past for the sake of future wonder. He passed in 2002 at age 85, a fittingly quiet exit for a man who shaped sci-fi storytelling for decades. Richard Kiley brought gravitas and emotional weight to his role as Cetic, a Bajoran priest caught in political tumult. Kiley, a Broadway legend with 2 Tony Awards to his name, infused even his brief screen time with dignity and dramatic force. Known for his powerful baritone and commanding stage presence, he was also the narrator in Jurassic Park. When he passed in 1999 at the age of 76, the stage and screen both dimmed a little, but his voice and presence continue to echo in minds and memories. Bernie Casey's portrayal of Calvin Hudson, a Starfleet officer turned Maquis defector, offered a powerful challenge to the show's moral compass. His character was neither traitor nor hero. He was a man of conscience, willing to defy Starfleet when it no longer aligned with his ideals. A former NFL player, Casey turned to acting with strength and soul, appearing in Revenge of the Nerds and Never Say Never Again. His passing in 2017 following a stroke marked the end of a unique career rooted in dignity and defiance. Barry Jenner played Admiral Ross, a man navigating the brutal logistics of interstellar war. Calm, methodical, and ethically complex, Ross embodied the kind of leader who made difficult decisions without losing his soul. Jenner's TV career included long runs on Knots Landing and Family Matters. He passed in 2016 at 75, remembered for performances that always felt grounded, even in the most fantastic settings. Tom Towles brought a jolt of tension to the episode The Circle as a dark and menacing Cardassian operative. Though the role was short, Towles made it memorable, much like his performances in genre films like The Devil's Rejects and Night of the Living Dead. He passed in 2015 at age 65, and while the cause was not made public, his unsettling charisma ensured he was never easily forgotten. Dick Miller's cameo as Winn in the time-travel 2-parter Past Tense was a rare treat. Playing a skeptical 21st-century everyman, he represented the gritty realism of a world not yet ready for the Federation's ideals. Miller, a legend of cult cinema, had over 180 film credits, working frequently with Joe Dante and appearing in Gremlins, The Terminator, and A Bucket of Blood. His 2019 passing at age 90 felt like the closing of a chapter in genre filmmaking. And finally, James Darren, Vic Fontaine himself. The smooth-talking, lounge-singing hologram became a surprising emotional cornerstone of DS9's later seasons. With episodes focused on healing, trauma, and mentorship, Vic was more than a novelty. He was a mirror to the crew's humanity. Darren, a former teen idol from the 1960s, found unexpected second-life stardom through this role. He passed in September 2024 at age 88. His final curtain call met with affection from fans who still return to his songs when they need a little heart in the stars. They didn't just act in space. They made it feel like home. These 22 actors each brought something irreplaceable to Deep Space Nine, and while they may no longer be with us, their performances continue to shine across time. Their legacies live on not just in reruns or box sets, but in the hearts of everyone who found comfort, inspiration, or hope in their stories. Now it's your turn. Which of these actors or characters meant the most to you? Was there a moment in DS9 that stayed with you long after the episode ended? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your memories. And if you found this tribute meaningful, please consider liking the video, subscribing for more journeys through the stars, and sharing this with a fellow Trek fan. Because stories like these deserve to be remembered. Until next time, may your path be clear, your shield strong, and your memories full of stars.